Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hello, hello. Hi, how's it going? For those of you watching on YouTube, if you are enjoying our content, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Let me know what kind of educational videos you guys want me to drop in the near future, and I will be happy to oblige. As I've said before, guys, I love reading your comments, and the fact that you guys bother to take the time to comment is what keeps me going, keeps me motivated. So, yeah. Let's get to trading. Well, first, let's get to analyzing. So, what have we got going on? Larger scale picture, we've been finding some difficulty with maintaining lows. Um, when I say maintaining lows, what I mean by that is that there hasn't been this abandoning of hope follow through. We have been undercutting for the last 3 days so far after we gapped down. So sellers have definitely still shown that they're very much in control of this activity in this direction, but there isn't this necessary pushing to really drop us into the thin area that is below us on our really long-term chart. We're looking at the 3-year weekly here for that. So where does that leave us? Well, buyers aren't really stepping in to do much. Given the news of recent and the fact that there's going to be more hikes coming in our future, I don't think people are too eager or too excited to get into long-term positions quite yet. So that does make it hard for us to find some good rallies that aren't fueled by short covering. That being said, when we do see this repeated downward activity, eventually, if the market starts to get too bearish, we should see some good short squeezing with potential to the upside. But that is neither here nor there. We're going to be more focused on our intraday. We have a high volume node on our monthly 3-month daily chart right at the previous day high. So that's going to be a spot we're going to be paying attention to today, especially if we don't end up undercutting the lows from yesterday. That's kind of where we would expect activity to start moving back to if it can't generate more interest in selling down here in this thinner area. So that's part of the auction cycle, right? We move from high volume areas to low volume areas to high volume areas to low volume areas. That's the ebb and the flow. So the longer we spend in this low volume area without making the move to the next one or to the next high volume area, it stands to reason that there's potential that we move back up to the previous one. So looking at that previous day high, looking at our halfback, our overnight high, trying to gauge whether or not there's short covering this morning and some buying potential. Other than that, if we start running away from those positions, we will be looking at the undercut of the low to see if we get continued follow through, some more building of volume down in this lower volume area, and just whether or not there's general acceptance at these levels. We had a rather aggressive push away from the year-to-date low yesterday, which once we made it to the previous day value high, we then saw a very aggressive push all the way back down to the year-to-date low. Actually, I think it might have even undercut the low a little bit by the end of the day. But then as soon as we hit that, we then saw again another aggressive push back up. It was the end of the day, so there really wasn't anywhere for it to go after that. Overnight session kind of trickled up after that and led us into our morning session, which did start off with an overnight high near a higher traffic area in the last 2 days. But of course, we've now started to see the overnight low kind of drop lower and lower. We've already taken out the T+2 low in the overnight session. So we're going to be keeping our eye on that level. It's hanging out at the previous day POC right now, which means that that's potentially a springboard point for us to actually move upwards from if there is a new up auction beginning. However, we also may find ourselves pinned to it for a little bit because we are opening in range in value, probably going to be some chop and a little bit of uncertainty. So those are the things we're going to be monitoring for, at least in the early morning session. Whether or not there's certainty in the direction, or if there's chop. If there is some certainty, we don't get that acceptance beyond the overnight low, we see volume start to flood in, we're probably going to try and ride this long, see how it reacts to the halfback, maybe even up to the overnight high, things like that. If we do get acceptance below the overnight low and they're trying to push it down, we'll probably try playing short to just above the previous day low, because that is where we have seen the aggressive pushbacks. And then we'll be seeing if maybe we want to hop in long there or if there's further breaking and acceptance there. Otherwise, if we kind of get pinned to this POC in the morning, we're probably going to sit aside and not try to make any balance plays off of the morning range. We'll let everything develop a little bit more before we start trying to get involved. Of course, that is the plan. The plan can change at a moment's notice based on the market generated information that we receive. So, guys, we'll be live in just a couple minutes here. I'm going to step away for a moment, and then we'll be ready to trade. Good luck. All right, here's the opening bell. And it's on. There's our overnight low, previous day point of control. See, testing to see if there's buyers below the overnight low. And we move into the next push. Sellers taking the initiative here. All right. It's a pretty decent little uptick in volume once we hit that level. So that would tell us that we definitely ran into some demand right there. We'll see if the demand overwhelms the supply at all. So it looks like our short line for today, was almost our support. We didn't really get a reactionary bounce. So the down move isn't done yet. There was a little bit of demand that it ran into there, but it has swallowed it up. Price is accepting pretty well below the overnight low so far. We're going to wait to see where we first stop at and what the reaction moves up to. So for Wyckoff theory, we're in a movement cycle right now, early in the morning. So we're waiting to see where this bottoms out and where we get the reaction play to. The reaction is essentially going to give us two levels that we can play off of: support and resistance for the opening scrum. And based on how much of this move is taken back by the reaction, will tell us a lot. All right, so a little bit of a bounce there, coming back into that same little choke point where we hit some demand. All right, so it looks like there is some decent demand down here at these levels, at least enough to kind of halt this progress for now. And that is definitely a reaction. So we're going to give ourselves a support now. And we're going to see if this reaction keeps moving up and makes another new high, or if this is going to end up being our resistance rather. All right, so far, strong reaction. It's taken back a lot of the move. Look at that, all the way back to our overnight low. So it looks like price was not accepted very well below it. Woohoo! Wow, look at that. She's still going. Oh, it looks like we're we're back at the high of the morning. So we're still floating around the previous day point of control. And this is the kind of chop that we were anticipating, right? If you kind of look at right, you can see, yeah, you can see yesterday's profile. So if you see where this bottom move kind of exhausted itself, it's the thinner area of yesterday's profile. And now today, or this up move right here, we're waiting to see what it does as we kind of get close to this thin portion of the top. We have just made a new high on the day. We're not quite done with this reactionary move yet. Oh, wow. Off of the first pivot of today. Still moving. So we had a little bit of a move below our short line for today, and then that's where the reaction started. So I'll be interested to see if we get a push up a little bit above our long line, close to our halfback, and if we start pushing back down from there. We're also going to go ahead and mark off the first level from this morning. Kind of got three distinct peaks that have formed in our volume profile so far. We've got the largest one down here at the base. So a lot of volume entered here, which propelled us to the upward. So that's a shelf that we're looking at so far for this morning. Then our next amount of volume is kind of where we crossed the opening price. And now we're actually getting a pretty decent chunk of volume up here, which could be indicating that this is where the rotation back down is going to start, or at least not the rotation back down necessarily, but where this reaction has now exhausted itself, and we should find where the next support is. But who knows? Maybe this will turn into a one-sided trading day, and we won't end up getting an opportunity to enter. We are getting a little bit of consolidation up here, which is not a good sign for the bears. More volumes picking up here. So there's definitely supply here that buyers are trying to eat up. Volumes getting close to matching our bottom peak. Seeing a little bit of selling effort coming in. So we did lose the top peak level. Let's see if it's going to get pinned here in the midpoint or if we're rotating all the way back down to the big volume spike. Ooh. So far, we did start to get pushed back at the spot that we would have expected, but it isn't a rapid sell-off. So this tells us that buyers have some sway today. or at the very least, sellers aren't as aggressive as they have been. Because I mean, even right here, they only took us back to the 48 line. We're gonna leave this line in for now. The one I'm talking about is the one I've got connected to the opening candle wick. This trend line's gone. Oh, that actually was a good risk to reward short spot now that I'm looking at it. So we've talked about EMA cloud plays before. We had a crossover touch to the 48 and a pushback, but that pushback didn't match or exceed the previous high. So that would have been a good spot to take a short because we would know that we were out if we broke that high. That being said, we would have been out of that play. So probably a good thing we didn't take that. Good risk to reward does not always make it the right play. And we already discussed how buyers have the upper hand this morning. So trying to short this might not be in our best interest. Although now we're running away from a good long entry point. Five-minute HA candles starting to push through. If this continues, we should get a pretty good crossover event, probably within the next half hour would be my guess. So we are going to look for a long entry. Let's see if we get some decent pushback. Make sure we're on the right contracts. This is it. Okay. We were about to grab that long, but we broke the trend line there. So now we potentially got a weakening of the thrust. It's a tough one. With the trend line broken, I don't like that we're hovering so far away from VWAP. Because in theory, if we entered here, our risk to reward is down near VWAP. So that's a lot of risk. But we are hanging out at the POC, and we're not moving through it. We just did as soon as I said that, so... We are starting to develop a lot more volume up here, so it does make sense that this is the rotation point. So let's see where this move kind of flounders. Whoop. Yeah, it's kind of moving sideways right now across that POC. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Looks like price is starting to get contained a little bit to the downside. If we don't end up making our play here, there should be a good spot pretty soon. Oh, hey, good morning. And see, we had some people hop in here. How we doing today, guys? No short, only long. Yeah. I think maybe I am gonna hold off a little bit longer. See if we get something that just gives me a better signal. This is it's kind of convoluted at best. Looks like we're starting to come into a skid down near those lows. Let's see, do we pop back over the POC? Nope. Contained. All right, here's the VWAP test. This is potentially where we start to find a good risk to reward location for what we're looking at. I mean, our cloud is getting thinner. The up move does look like it's weakened a little bit, but we haven't tested anything down here yet. That's a pretty good push away from VPOC. Not VPOC, VWAP. Dang, it didn't even come down and touch it. Possibly some short covering going on there. Hey, if you're just coming back to it, welcome back, sir. Good to have you hanging out with us. And definitely smart idea to, hang on the sidelines, watch, kind of get your finger back on the pulse, Especially if you've been away for a while. The markets have gotten, I mean, not like they weren't wonky before, but they've added in some more interesting craziness. All right. If we get a little bit more of a push here, we're going to go ahead and take an entry because we can get a decent risk to reward. Yeah, that is true. There's definitely been crazier. Man, I remember Black Friday of last year. Ooh, that was a painful day for my account because I was really stubborn. So we seem to be kind of at a stalemate here. We are entering into a consolidation. We like consolidations because the volatility goes down and gives us better prices to enter on. So now we have to ask ourselves, who's in control? Are we accumulating or are we distributing? All right, we're doing it. I like the price. So if VWAP fails, we'll end up getting crunched out of this. Hopefully, if it does fail, it isn't a fake out. That would be unfortunate for us. We do see a crossover event starting here. So hoping that it is a fake out crossover event. Otherwise, we are absolutely on the wrong side of this trade, and we should have been looking to get short for the rotation. But our stop is at the thinnest part of our volume so far. So the thesis we're playing off of is that's going to be where the end of the auction is, that it's not going to go further than that. Because if it does, then we've got that rotation down to that higher volume area. And we're teetering on the edge of profit. I mean, we've got some profit right now, but if I defend this, we're going to get knocked out very quickly. So we are just going to let this one develop. We've got about 4 minutes till period B starts. We should get ready to make some sales. So we also don't want to watch a winner turn into a loser. That'd be very unfortunate. All right, we've moved far enough. We should be able to set up some sells without getting too worried. So let's see. This would be about 167. So we can probably get 160 comfortably. No, 160 is still a little high. But now that we have it on the board, we can at least set that up. So the first spot that I'm going to target is where we hit that first reaction play off of the move up. So that's probably going to be closer to 157. Nope, even a little bit lower than that. 155. Yeah, we'll leave it at 154. Now, ideally, we're on the right side of the next move up in rotation. So that'll just be a piece where, or that'll just be a short little stop where we take some profit. And then our big profit point will hopefully be up around 362.76. But we are still condensing. We are still under the point of control. So we'll see. Would expect maybe one more fake out to the bottom before they start trying to actually take it up. Hopefully, if that's the case, we don't lose so much theta that our stop actually moves up high enough where we start to get in trouble. Meaning they can knock us out without actually having to move price, all the way down to that thin area. As far as our put call ratio is concerned, we are neutral, but we are teetering on bearish. It's at about 0.79 currently. All right, there's our first piece. So now we can defend this if the move fails. Oh, wow, really? That stops us out at POC? Ugh. Nope. Too late to change our mind. All right. So that was the first play of the day. Unfortunately, we probably got knocked out of our whole position a little bit quick there. But it is what it is. Green is green. We did take, what was that, like 46, 47 cents? Yeah, we got knocked out too quick. That was quite unfortunate. But I mean, we're like up 26 cents for our first play on the day. So that's cool. All right, I'm going to step away for a moment. I have to answer a client's text message. I'll be right back, guys. All right. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Yeah, we got knocked out of our position too soon. I mean, that was my own fault. It wasn't even challenged, right? I could have just left my stop where it was. But that's something that I need to work on. I've been moving my stop up too much sometimes. I mean, like I said though, we're still green on the day, so I'm not going to get upset. All right. What do we got going on here? We've got a pretty solid trend line we can draw. Looks like it's been respected pretty well. B period doesn't look quite ready to break out. Also, we have a nice proper high, so that's something to consider. If we were still in our position, we probably would have taken our second piece here at the halfback since we didn't start making a run in B period. And we would have taken our third piece there. So if you were along with me, that would have been the rest of the play if I was still in it. Second piece would have been at our halfback. Third piece would have been right there at the break of the 48. Just because it looks like we're, going back into some balance, going back into some consolidation. We're not quite ready to break the range yet. Now, if you are feeling adventurous, if you are, more of a risk taker, you absolutely could keep holding on to that position. But in my experience and in my preferences, I would prefer to reposition and just take profits on the play. Because if we haven't actually hit the next movement cycle yet, then that means we're probably going to have another good entry point. I mean, here's another test of the VWAP with a really big push from sellers down towards that thin spot. So if you were still in that long play, you'd be red right now, and potentially this would be the good spot to get back in. That's only from a risk to reward standpoint, however. One of the things that we have talked about before is that a lot of times when VWAP gets tested and then pretty much retested almost immediately, that's probability wise, that's going to be a breaking point. So we could be looking at the rotation starting now down towards that higher volume node that we hit this morning. And so far, price does seem to be accepting a little bit into that thinner area. Obviously, there's plenty of time for this to kind of peter out, and then we'd get a nice spring event, which should lead us into our break of the highs. Now, if you did buy here, remember what you're actually looking for if you're buying a drop like that is you want to see it quickly start to push away. If it starts to consolidate at the bottom of the move or at the top of the move, if you're in the other direction, the probability and odds of the move not being in your favor do start to increase. So at that point, you got to make the decision if you're going to take whatever little profit you can out of it, or if you're going to set a tight stop, or if you're going to ride it out, things of that nature. So it's a pretty nice pushback from that thin area. See if this maintains. We did get a crossover event to the downside, so this is potentially a good short entry if you play crossovers. Based on what we're seeing in the volume profile, though, I don't know if that's a crossover I'd want to enter on. 5-minute HA candles, pretty choppy, not really giving us any good information we can play with. So if this is a spring event, we ideally would like to see price action push back above that support resistance line. That's been relatively respected. If it holds under it, then that's an acceptance of the break. And then we absolutely should be looking to grab a nice short for the rotation. But the effort is appearing to be kind of weak down here. I think they wanted to rotate it, but it just didn't make it. Demand definitely did not rise to that point. We would have seen a much more aggressive pushback if demand started rising up. So we can assume that the demand level has cooled off a little bit and it's just sitting below our stop line now. Ugh, ugly price action down here. But the good news for bulls is it didn't seem immediately interested in rotating through the thin area. So they're going to have to flood some more supply in here if they really want to drop this level. We are hovering at that close too. Remember, if we lose that close, screens start turning red. So if they're going for the psychological game, this is a good spot to start flooding supply into. Making another attempt at that thin zone. So this is leading us to believe that there was a good short entry off of the test of the 13 moving average. At the very least, we could have gotten, what's that? 20, almost 30 cents at this point, this juncture right here. Nice. So if you do play crossover events and you did take the short at the retest, congratulations. Should have been able to lock in some nice little profit right there. All right. Getting some penetration of the 13 here. Some weakness showing in the down move that was attempted. So we'll see if we get a little bit of a push down, and if this next low isn't quite as low as those other lows. Given where price is, might have just missed it, but I was actually thinking about grabbing a long somewhere in here. The risk to reward, pretty good. Obviously, we're looking at the stop or the low. That would be the get out of dodge point. Just got that price I was looking at, 103. Oh, so close. All right. Didn't quite get the price we wanted, but I don't hate it. So similar to the play we took before, the thesis that we're building is this inability to penetrate through that thin zone should bring us to a rotation back to the point of control. So our target is right at 358.77. That's also why our stop is just below that short zone. Thin zone. Derp. So basically that stop allows for another tiny little push, which would give us a shortening of the thrust to the downside. But it isn't so far away that we'd end up getting our butts kicked if this decided to drop even lower. So we like seeing that little tail and push below the previous day close. That would have been the best spot to buy. I think price even got down to about 0.95. That would have been great. But we had already bought in, we already committed, and I didn't really feel like adding to this position because we are getting some pretty solid consolidation down here. They're going for it. It's close. Man, we are getting demand meeting back up. This tells me I almost feel like I want to give this a little bit more breathing room and add to it down here. So we are still consolidating. Come on. All right. So we're now in a fully leveraged position. By fully leveraged, I mean we're at our max tolerance. All right, let's analyze what we've got on our charts, make sure we didn't just make a terrible mistake. Still liking the fact that they haven't been able to push it further into that thin area. So it tells us that, there's a gap there in the supply. So there's definitely demand hanging out. Our HA candles, not really favoring bullish activity. We are at our stop line for our short-long breakaway play. So potentially a good spot for that. I think maybe maybe we're looking at a 75-25 on this play. 75% we're right, 25% we are dead wrong. And about 10 minutes left in this period, too. 2 is in TOO, but also 2 is in period B. Haha. Looks like the condensing price action that we were seeing is starting to fan out. Potential move play getting ready to start. Sellers are having a real tough time beating price down below VWAP. I mean, we're not really seeing enthusiastic buying. What I'm kind of banking on is a good short squeeze play. Ooh, that doesn't make me feel good right there. Price looks like it might be breaking to the downside. Getting more of that fanning action. Oof. That's unfortunate. But you can see, though, how when they finally penetrated that zone, it just kind of really started falling. Interesting. Looks like other people were ready to abandon their position at the same spot I did. All right. We're going to make one last play today using the low as our marker point. So that would get us down to... Oh, that's too low. So what we're going to be playing for now, since we lost the run up from there, is we're actually going to be looking for where the balance is now. Of course, we could be incorrect in our assumption that we're going to get some balancing plays in our later periods. So basically, we're positioning and setting ourselves up to make some profit in period E and period F. And the idea is if we drop lower, we'll be able to capture a better price point at where essentially we would know if we're right or wrong. They're getting a nice push away. But we're back to that thin spot. So we should rotate back down if we don't punch through it. Well, would you look at that? All right. Well, howdy doody. That's a pretty aggressive push. Lots of short covering. That completely took back that sell move, and it did not take as much effort. So I think we might look for a good spot to add to this play. It's always nice when a play works out like that. All right, so here's where we should take some profit. And we may have just missed our opportunity. Should have had that sell ready to go before it started moving. Other people taking their profit there. But now we've lost out on some really good volatility. Yeah, it's already receded like 12 cents. Because even if we wanted to keep playing this position, I mean, taking some profit there, and then we could have added to this position what we had sold once it came right down to that point. Let's see if they can chew on that supply shelf. Whoa, that happened a lot quicker than I was expecting. All right, take it easy, buddy. Thanks for joining me. All right, we took some profit there. We're going to keep monitoring this. I was really hoping we were going to get a little bit more, at least up to that half back, because then I could have sold everything, hit our daily goal, covered our losses, and just been done. Well, I am going to at least protect this where our cover play is. All right, and we're out. Still green on the day. We covered our loss. A little wacky and wild. We are coming up near our 11 o'clock. I think we might be shutting down for the day. Man, back to that VWAP, huh? All right. Yeah, that's where we're going to call it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the stream. If you stuck around this long, please like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the flip side. Take it easy.